Hello everyone and welcome back to a new episode of Italian Politician of the Week. I am Ipernick, the great is silent, and today we're talking about Nicola Zingaretti, president of Lazio, former party secretary of the Democratic Party and brother of the famous actor Luca Zingaretti, who plays the role of a kick-ass Sicilian detective who fights against the mafia. President Zingaretti's life is not as engaging as his brother, but his feats as president as well as his role in PD's recovery from the Renzi era is interesting to say the least. Before we begin, remember to like, comment and subscribe if you want to support me. Without further ado, let's roll the intro. Zingaretti was born in 1965 in Rome. He started his political activism when he was in high school, where he took part in many anti-racist and socialist associations and initiatives. In the mid-80s, he joined the Communist Youth Federation and eventually became its president in 1992. 1 year after that, he was elected city council member in Rome. He will climb many ladders and play a big role in his party, even contributing to Veltroni's campaign for mayor in the year 2000. Until he was elected into the European Parliament in 2004. This will last until 2008, when he will be elected president of the province of Rome. Before I go any further, I never really talked about provinces in this channel. That's because ever since Amato's regional reform in the year 2000, provinces have lost much of their administrative power. Regional presidents and mayors hold much of it, while provincial presidents barely do anything. However, this will be the start of a big trend for Zingaretti, because unlike many of his colleagues before and after him, he preferred to operate on a more local level, winning the love and admiration of the people of Rome and Lazio. This new dynamic played out in 2010, when Lazio was supposed to elect its regional president. Zingaretti was easily one of the more likely candidates to win, but he refused to run since at that point he had taken office little more than a year before. The election was actually really interesting, because the main candidates were two women, Renata Polverini for the People of Liberty and Emma Bonino from the Radical Party, who run in coalition with the left-wing coalition. For those who don't know, Bonino is not exactly moderate. I mean, she is left-wing, sure, but not the same way as her colleagues in the Democratic Party. We're talking about a woman that in the 70s used to go in the streets naked to protest anti-abortion laws. She's not as radical as she used to, but the people living in Lazio, while still respecting her, did not see a proper connection with her, and perhaps they were right. Just to give you an idea, Polverini was born in Rome, while Bonino was born in a small town near Cuneo called Bra. Bruh. It was a close call, but the right won at the end of the day, and many people blamed Zingaretti for this loss, specifically Mayor of Florence Matteo Renzi, who at the time was the leader of the social liberal current in the party. In response, Zingaretti said that the reason why he did not run was because, and I'm paraphrasing, he did not prioritize his career when it came to politics. As I already said, Renata Polverini became president of Lazio in 2010. I have a soft spot for her, because despite still being part of Forza Italia and being in parliament right now, she is very socially progressive and even voted in favor of the Zan law last year. However, just 2 years into her term as president, she decided to resign, after her party colleagues in the regional council were accused of using public funds for personal expenses. Eventually, the members of the left-wing coalition and the centrist UDC resigned as well from the regional council, hence calling for early elections. Polverini, despite not being responsible for this mess, followed them in October 2012, almost 3 years before the end of her term. In one of her last press conferences, she admitted being horrified by this series of events. This mess was a huge blow for the right-wing coalition back then, which at the time was already suffering from multiple schisms. The 2013 elections were very very promising for the left, in both local and national levels. Zingaretti was almost done with his term as provincial president, so he thought to give it a go and won the regional presidency as well. In the meantime, party secretary of PD, Pierluigi Bersani, also won the parliamentary elections, granting the party a relative majority in both chambers. Now, I'd love to tell you what he did as president, but I really want to get to the good parts of the video. All you need to know is that Zingaretti did such a good job as president that he was re-elected in 2018, the year when the populist parties were getting a lot of votes and eclipsing the Democratic Party everywhere else. It got so bad that Matteo Renzi, who was secretary at the time, had to resign in shame. Renzi today is very unpopular, but in 2016, 40% of the Italians supported him, and that's very high values considering that no leader gets more than 20% today. By 2018, Zingaretti seemed to be the only member of the Democratic Party to win anything, and given his solid reputation and long-time adherence to the party, he was elected party secretary in 2019. The state of PD before the pandemic was a total mess, and its direction was never more ambiguous. There are three main currents in the party: the progressives, the social liberals, and the Christian Democrats. In the first few years of its existence, the leadership was composed of progressives, most notably Bersani, who made the left win the 2013 elections. However, Bersani never really got along with the liberal current, so when it was time to elect the new president of the republic, he was not able to make his party vote unanimously. Renzi and his men disrupted the election for days until Bersani had enough and resigned, hence paving the way for Renzi's rise to leadership. The Democratic Party changed drastically under Renzi, who seemed more focused on the well-being of the economy rather than the well-being of the workforce. Depending on your ideological stances, these are basically the same thing, but that's not the point. The left was not acting as the left anymore, and yet the economy was doing well. So Renzi, when he eventually became prime minister, was actually very popular before everything came crashing down. Zingaretti's main goal was to remind the Democratic Party how to be left-wing again, and in many ways he succeeded. How so? By doing absolutely nothing. Let me explain. I'm not sure if this was his plan all along or not, but depending on who you ask, the party kind of turned itself back to being left-wing on its own. Not super progressive or anything, but definitely stopped following whatever direction Renzi had in mind. While everyone was being Eurosceptic, Zingaretti branded its party as one of the few European strongholds left in the opposition, but never did much with these values. Instead, it just waited that Conte's first coalition government fell on its own and then showed up at the negotiation table with relatively good terms with the Five-Star Movement, allowing a new coalition to be made. By doing this, not only did Zingaretti get rid of the Populist Alliance, which was about to destroy whatever was left of Italy's good reputation, but he also got rid of the liberals inside the Democratic Party, who were trying to disrupt them at every turn without much success. Renzi hated the new direction the party was taking and therefore left with around 40 loyal followers in the parliament and formed Italia Viva. Which direction did this new party take? The same one as PD, since they joined Conte's second coalition without much consideration. Zingaretti was unimpressed. The future of the Democratic Party seemed promising until COVID arrived. In the first few days of panic preceding Conte's lockdown announcements, many party leaders were telling people to stay calm and to chill out essentially. Zingaretti was one of them, who at the end of February 2020 encouraged his voters to not worry about the virus, to leave Asian people alone, and to go out with friends and get a nice drink. A few days later, the lockdown began and Zingaretti tested positive. Unsurprisingly, Zingaretti's ideas for PD were put on pause by the pandemic, and he's still the president of Lazio, so I guess he was very overwhelmed until he resigned in March of last year. I made a video on this already, so just go ahead and check it out. I wouldn't say that Zingaretti was a bad party secretary, but he was definitely underwhelming. However, I have to admit that he's an excellent president of Lazio. Let me list some of the things he has been up to recently. Since 2018, he has invested heavily on healthcare, providing many vaccines to kids, and he even introduced the obligation for doctors to perform abortions on women if necessary. He also did wonders in the trash collecting sector, investing millions on the program. Zingaretti also spent 200,000 euros was in renovating countless historical landmarks from the Second World War, specifically regarding the Holocaust and the Resistance. The only real bummer I can think of is the huge hack of last summer. That's right, basically a malware was able to get into the region's data system and started to delete the sensible data of thousands of citizens. It would be very funny if I told you that Zingaretti himself had clicked on a wrong link downloading a virus into his main computer, but it would be deceitful. The reality is that probably a normal employee opened something suspicious and this automatic malware started doing some damage. Most of the data was saved since it was copied somewhere else prior to the hack, but it is uncertain if somebody else has it. I think this was unplanned, so nobody has the data, but again I'm not sure. I think that is all I have to say on Zingaretti. He is alright, I don't really have a specific opinion on him, however his role on the Democratic Party's history is very insightful. What do you guys think about Zingaretti? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching and I will see you next time.